there.
Welcome to another Facebook Live, this time featuring FlipGrid. I'm Maggie Pickett, digital learning consultant with Grantwood AEA.
Yeah, I'm Amber Bridge. Also, we're all digital learning consultants at Grantwood AEA.
Yep. And I am Gina Rogers. So, senior member of the digital learning team.
I like that add-on. That's good.
I think I'll add that to my title.
So today we're talking about FlipGrid. And when we think about FlipGrid, we think about a way to connect with our students, right? And when a lot of you out there that are working to Zoom or do some Google Meets with your students, those are really awesome opportunities to kind of get that face-to-face real-time connection, which is a big part of our phase 1 of our continuous learning guide. But what's nice about FlipGrid is that it gives you the opportunity for a little, I don't know, do we call it grace?
Maybe. I think it allows your students to see each other and kind of collaborate and respond to one another. But especially in this kind of uncertain time of whether or not people will be able to all connect at the same time in a synchronous fashion, like on a Zoom call or something like that, it allows for some asynchronous connection. Kids can get on there when they are able to, leave a message, respond to some sort of question or stimulus from their teacher.
Exactly. So you don't have to stress as a parent or as a teacher of saying, I got to make sure that I'm on this Zoom call at this time. You set it up, you share it out, and then whenever you get the opportunity to get on, right?
Yes, for sure. And FlipGrid's awesome. I mean, they have made some great changes over the years. They're one of the few tools out there that have gone the opposite direction and made all of their features free. Opened up everything, which was awesome. It was like Christmas that day.
Do you remember when we had actually a blog post that you and I did, and we said, if you're going to buy anything, you should buy FlipGrid. And then a few months later, they made it all free and it was magic.
Yes. Yeah, it was awesome. I think there was like a 5-pack at that time or something. Or we said, if you get 5 friends, it was a 6-pack, you can get a discount. And then it was all free, so it didn't matter. And they've also added some amazing features to FlipGrid too over the past couple of years. One of those being the whiteboard feature. Yeah. And I think that really helps students make their thinking visible or demonstrate their understanding of a certain concept in a way that just is a lot more, tactile.
It turns over the digital chalkboard to them, right? Yep. They're the ones that get to lead that idea and that lesson.
Yeah. So Amber and I are going to just share a few things today about FlipGrid. Maggie is our comment monitor. And so she is busy there on the backside, pushing resources and engaging with any of you that are commenting. So if you have questions or wonderings or things that you'd like to see in FlipGrid, please place them in the comments and Maggie will be sure to pass those along to us. Also, if you're watching from the comfort of your home on this snowy day in April, which is kind of sad, just let us know that you're there. Who are you? What's your role? And just give us a little hi.
Cool. Should we dive in and get started with FlipGrid?
Sure. Okay. And Amber, I totally can't remember. Are you driving or am I?
I am driving today. So.
Okay. Yay. I'm color commentary then.
That's right. So everybody hold on to your seats. Okay, so we have our page, FlipGrid. As educators, you would head up here to your upper right-hand corner to either log in, or if you've never been to FlipGrid before, you will do the sign up button. I always love when you can get that quick access login, and so I'm going to log in with Google. And this is kind of your home base for the teacher side of FlipGrid. When we think about FlipGrid, we have to think about it as you get a grid And on your grid, you get to have topics. So let's first start off by setting up your grid. So I'm going to go over here to the Add New Grid button.
Yes. And so I come from a secondary perspective, and I always think of grids as my classes. And so like I had English 1 first period, English 1 second period, and each one of those classes I would set up a grid for. You could have some cross class conversations. So say you have several sections of English 1 or Science 9 or whatever, and you want them to talk across sections. Just keep in mind that you're going to have that number of videos total to respond to or moderate within that grid or within that topic that's inside the grid. So the grid's kind of the classroom, and the topic is an assignment that's in each of those classrooms.
Absolutely. So let's actually set up our grid and talk a little bit about some of your choices that you have in here. So you're going to name your grid. I'm going to take it from the aspect of setting up for a specific class period rather than all of my class periods. And then your choices are to either use a school email. So if your school students have their own email account, that would definitely be the way to go. Or you could create a list of student IDs, or you could make it a public grid that wouldn't require a login. I'm going to choose school email, and then down here is your flip code. You can make changes to that. So if I wanted it to be bridge 2, oh, not available, maybe I have to add period 2. I could make that customize to make it easier for people and students to find. Once you choose your domain, that link with school email, it automatically pulls in your school domain. And if your school actually has a separate domain for students as they do for teachers, I would stick both of them in here at that point. And after that, you are up and running to your grid. They stick in a starter grid topic of just saying hello, which is a great place to kind of maybe build some of those norms for discussion and for how you would want your FlipGrid to be set up. But this is our overall grid, and we can have as many different topics on this grid that we want to, which is kind of what Gina was just saying. Each one of those is a different place to have a conversation on a specific topic. One other thing that I think is interesting to kind of set up here is if you do any kind of collaboration with other teachers, you could add a co-pilot. And a co-pilot is fun because they can also, it could be another teacher, and you can have and do some moderation together on it.
Mm-hmm. And if you have multiple class periods there, you can also duplicate that grid real quickly rather than having to go through the process of setting up another one. So Amber could just hit duplicate grid, and she just has to rename it to period 3.
Yep, exactly. Let's go ahead and show how to set up a new topic, because that's going to be our overall discussion place. When we do our topic, we need to have a title for it. So what should we have people be chatting about today?
Let's say, how do we feel about snow in April?
Yeah. Snow in April. So you give it a title, and then you need to go through and decide exactly how long you want people to be able to respond to you. Now, FlipGrid has recently opened up the option of going all the way down to 10 minutes, but as someone who has listen to student videos over time, I'm going to recommend less than 5. Yeah. Because 10 minutes is a really, really long time. Unless you're going to be doing like a transfer of, let's say you had an assignment where students were going to be doing oral presentations as part of it, and they needed to do it for like 10 minutes or 8 minutes, that would be probably the only time that I would open it all the way up to 10 minutes. Don't you think, Gina?
Yes, for sure. If there was some sort of presentation aspect to it, so some sort of like oral presentation, or maybe if there was a performance type of thing that you were having your students do, say you were teaching like band or music or vocal music, and you wanted the kids to sing in some way or do something for an extended period of time.
Yep. Oh, yeah, that's a really great point, like incorporating music teachers within that, and how music teachers can go in and maybe give a little mini performance that could play out through FlipGrid. That would be really fun to watch. Mm-hmm. So you can go all the way down to 15 seconds, which is a really short amount of time. But I think leave it at a minute. I actually saw somebody online doing, and I felt like this was popular a few years ago, but redoing a movie from beginning to end in 1 minute. It was pretty funny.
With props or not props?
There were not props.
No.
Props. Yep.
Yeah, I think I would choose Castaway and I'd have Wilson.
There you go. There
So
you go.
Amber, as you are kind of focusing on the rest of this topic, we had a question on how to add a GIF or a GIF, if you so wish, as the focus into specifically from Brush Ninja. I'm not sure if that's something that you can model, but just adding kind of that focus option, media.
That is a great question. So that is actually right down here, right underneath where we're at. So once you do title, recording time, you stick in any other kind of directions you want. I find it really helpful to kind of give a guide of things within here of some points that you want students to be covering.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And
also,
for some of, oh, sorry, Amber, for some of our students that might need some additional sentence stem support, this might be where you type in those sentence stems. So like, today I went to ... or whatever sentence starter they might need in order to get going.
Yep, exactly. That's a perfect place for that. You can also stick in a hyperlink into that directions as well if there's any kind of rubric you want students to be pointed back to think about. But having that focus option is all right down here. And so typically I will just pull in a Giphy, one that's out there, but you can do your own video recording. You can upload your own video to it. You could add a link from a YouTube video or upload an image. Now, I'm not sure exactly what the tagline is for the Brush Ninja Giphies, but I would guess it would probably fall under either upload a video or maybe upload an image. That would be where my guess would land. I've not done that one before though. So if anybody has, or give it a shot here as we're going live. So if I go into Giphy, I'm just gonna search for snow. Here we go. We've got a Peanuts character in there, and this is your default of the basics that you need to cover. But I've had a lot of questions when I've shared out FlipGrid before about some specific things that don't show up, but they will if you click this magic more options button right here next to your red create topic. So if you click on more options, it gives you more options. And so in here, this is where you could attach more things. I have had the question, I'm a little nervous about this. My students haven't really done this. I'm afraid of what they might post before. And if you're still working on those norms, they do have the option to turn on video moderation so that videos will be hidden from view until you activate them. So if you're still working on some of those things with your students in this virtual environment, that might be something that you might decide to turn on.
Additionally, right next door to the right, you have student-to-student replies where you can turn those on and off. And so I would definitely suggest this is something that you are scaling up to after you've established those norms. And so maybe your first step is I'm turning on video moderation. So I just want to see what's being posted there. And eventually I'm going to turn on student-to-student replies so the students can reply to one another. And the replies will also be moderated too, if you turn on moderation.
Yes. All sorts of things that you can keep turning on and off, just depending on your comfort level and where you guys are at with your students. I am going to go ahead and click on create topic. And it tells me my topic is ready, and I can either copy it or I can get a QR code that I could put up somewhere or share that could be scanned, which I think is important to note that FlipGrid acts and lives within your web browser, but you can also do it on a phone, on an iPad. It's very, very flexible that way.
And you can also integrate Google Classroom in too. So you can push straight to Google Classroom, which we did feature that earlier this week. And so that's another thing to keep in mind. And then Amber, I can't remember, can you customize the topic code too, the same way as the grid code?
I cannot.
Okay, so that's good to know or good to remember. So you can customize the grid code, cannot customize the topic code.
Yep. Maybe if I got out of this, I might be able to, but right now I'm only getting an embed code, Microsoft Teams Classroom, Remind, which might also be something that people might be using during this time, or Copy It. So, yep, it looks like those are all set. Okay, so I've got my board set up. How do I get into it? What does it look like on the other end for students? So I'm gonna actually open up I'm gonna have to do a stop share for a second. And I'm gonna open up and share out a different tab that I have logged into another account so that we can see the student side. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Maggie, is there any other questions or anything that's coming up?
Yeah, we did have a question. So as you guys get ready to fold into the response mode, we've got a question about adding a Giphy into the response as a student.
Okay.
All right. So what I've got up here is I am logged in as a student would be. I can see that if I made multiple Flipgrids, you can see all of the topics that are on your grid, which is nice to see. You also see where you're at.
Amber, we've got a question. Do you suggest pushing out a topic at a time or share the whole grid?
That's a great point. I think if you're just getting started, I would do one topic at a time. What do you think, Gina?
Ditto. I echo that. Send out a topic at a time. And then once your kids get a little bit more used to responding to those topics, maybe share the overall grid and so they can flip back through and see what they've already done. And also providing them some explanation as to like, here's what this kind of looks like. This is kind of like our classroom. These are our different assignments that we've done so far. You can always go back to some of these.
Exactly. Let's show one cool thing that is linked in to FlipGrid as an automatic, and that is Microsoft Immersive Reader. And so because I put some text in here, I didn't do a lot, but because there's some text in here, I get this icon right here, which is the icon for Immersive Reader. And what that does is it's an accessibility feature that's built within. So if there was lots of text, this would make a lot more sense. But I can click on here, and what it's going to do is we have a play button. I also have some features about text preferences, changing text size, changing font or colors to be able to make it easier to read.
Magic wand is my favorite.
Magic wand is your favorite. Okay.
Yeah. Go to the magic wand.
I am on the magic wand. Yes.
Oh, okay.
This is your favorite. I love
the next one over. Sorry, the book. Sorry,
the book.
Not magic wand.
Okay.
Yeah. So the book, because you can do some translation of language, which I think is a really important thing to think about or consider. So if we go down to Spanish.
Which Spanish would you like?
Let's go Mexico. And then if you select document rather than word by word, it's going to translate that entire document. And actually, Amber hasn't even modeled yet it reading aloud, but it will read aloud here in Spanish too for students. Which is pretty nice. If you switch that back to English, Amber.
You bet. Got it. All right, and then
point to covered.
It's going to read it out loud and highlight each word as it's going. So it's a really nice feature built right within it. Nothing extra that you need to do, just kind of point it out to your students or the students that might need that help or access. So let's go into actually looking at what it does from the student side. I wonder where we start. Do you think it's the giant plus button?
Yes.
Yes, the giant plus button will activate your webcam, and there are several features built within here. So the first one that's over here on the left is filters, because who doesn't love a filter these days? I know that as I'm dreaming of sunshine and wishing there isn't snow outside, I feel like I start to need a filter on my face to not look so winter sick. You could also add text right onto your screen. And move that text around as needed. I'm gonna go back to the filters real quick. Sometimes we hear that students are uncomfortable being on screen, and so it's sometimes nice to offer them the option of mystery person or pixelated view to be able to kind of have them still be able to participate even if they feel uncomfortable with that. However, I will say that I think probably the strongest one, if we do have a student in this situation, is to actually go to the board feature, which is right down on the bottom here. And what that does is it takes you and your image completely out of it, and it becomes now a whiteboard. Also with that, you can add stickers, which are kind of like the images, which I think we'll go back to the question that Maggie addressed, that you could upload an image file. Now, this is a PNG or a JPEG image. Now, the question was about Giphies, and so it would really just kind of depend on what that tag at the end of their image would be. You can also do the upload feature right here, which would be upload a video, and you get that .mov, .mp4, or .webm video formats that are supported within the FlipGrid platform. Oops, let me go back in here. The other feature that FlipGrid has just added is right in these triple dots next to the record button. And that is that they have added a screen recording. So if you had students that maybe, like in Gina's last Facebook Live, did a Google slide deck as part of their learning that they wanted to share out, it will tap in and record the screen of the student right then and there. The other things that could be added in is that video clip option, or you could just record video or record an audio clip within there. Let's go back to our board for just a second. You also have a drawing feature within here. Let me change that color to be able to write on the screen. If you have a touch screen device, this is much smoother than doing it on a keypad. But the other thing that I would encourage you to point out to students is right over here on the right side is the sticky note. The sticky note allows students to do some prep of what it is they're going to say. They can move those sticky notes all around, and they are the only ones that see it. And so that kind of helps to focus their conversation as they are doing a recording. So let's go ahead and start recording. At the very bottom here, we got a record button. It gives you a countdown. And then you are live. You see up here as your numbers are ticking away, this is your time. I only have a minute, so I also want to practice the pause to reorient myself and decide what it is that I want to put on my screen. So I can click on clear while the video is paused. I could upload an image from my computer, have that on here. I could resize it, move it around. I could add a drawing on top of it, or I could annotate on top of it to really point some different things out. I can hit my record button when I'm ready to go again and record just another little snippet of it. Is there any other pro tips you have, Gina?
So one thing that I would consider looking at too is the book where it shows the topic again. So a lot of times I'll get into recording these and I'll be like, oh, wait a second, what was I actually supposed to be talking about? And so just bringing back up that teacher topic or teacher stimulus so I remember, and maybe if I need those sentence stems like right in front of me, so I make sure to cover the points that I intend to cover, I have those right in front of me.
And you know, I hadn't really thought about this before, but I love throwing a GIF into different places. But as I'm seeing this here, it's almost a little distracting in the student view. And so, you know, that might be something to think about too. Do I need to have that GIF for focus there? However, if I did have a video that students were watching, I think that would be really important to be able to allow them to recall that as they're prepping their video.
You know, Michelle Anderson, she's watching with us right now. She actually uses this to, students are using the whiteboard feature to send positive notes back and forth to other students. Really is a nice way for them to connect.
Awesome. I love that idea. And especially as you're really trying to get those initial connections down. We haven't seen each other in forever. That's a good one. It's real good. To wrap this up here, we click on next. And then you are live. And it gives you the opportunity to review your video. You can do some basic edits within here or adding more back into your video if you wanted to. You also have the opportunity to download your video at this point if you didn't quite want to get there. So that could also be another sneaky trick of, I just want to do a quick screen recording. Maybe I'll just do it in FlipGrid and download it before posting it. If I click on next, the last part of FlipGrid is it always asks you to take a selfie of who is doing the video recording. You can add in some fun stickers on there to help kind of set your stage as to how you're feeling. This is what is viewable and seen when you first go to the grid. And then you go to next. Put your name in, add a title. This could also be your opportunity to add in another link to it and submit your video. If you really liked your selfie, you can download it there and then make it your profile picture somewhere else, right? So if I were to go back to my grid and hit refresh, and the educator view, I'm going to see it show up like this. I'm going to see who posted it, when they posted, and if there are any other replies that are in there. From the student side, what it looks like is I start to see these almost show up like little mini card discussions within that grid or that board. Okay. How'd we do, Gina?
I think we got most of it. Maggie, any other questions and comments?
Yep, 2 other questions. One, with littles, is it easier to push this with student IDs or is it easier to push this with emails?
I would say student IDs. I guess it just depends too as to how your students are used to logging in or what they're doing. You know, as I say that, I'm wondering if the district that you're with is set up with Clever, if that will automatically authenticate and log them in with their Gmail so they won't have to enter any sort of long email address. I would say if that's not in place, probably a student ID if there's IDs that they're used to using already, like lunch codes or whatever. But, you know, if there's someone from another district or someplace out there that has an opinion on a way that they think it's best to set it up with littles, definitely chime in. Amber, what do you think?
I completely agree with you. You got to go with what they're used to. And if they're not used to anything, let's make it as simple as possible. So if your school ID or if your school email address is crazy long, I can't think of one that's crazy long off the top of my head, but maybe if there's any of those that have k12.ia.us as the end of theirs, that would be a little bit trickier for a younger to type in the whole email address.
Yeah, Robin says that she might be using logging in with this using the QR code feature for littles. That seems to be working. Another question we had was showing the response sticker that shows on the grid and the fire sticker.
Oh, the fire sticker? So what that is if I go into my video, I'm going to pause it here. I'm looking at what would be a student response, right? So up here as in the teacher view, when you're looking at this, you have 3 options. If there is a response that you really think is something that we need to pay attention to, that would be the star up here. And that would be one that you would it would move to the top. When you have multiple ones in there, it would move to the top and allow it to be featured. The fire is one that is pretty cool because if this is an awesome response that we all need to take a look at, or maybe this response actually sparks more conversation, what happens is when you click on that little fire icon, it pulls that out and that is now the topic for a different discussion on your grid. So it creates a whole new grid based off of that one student's video. And the last one here is like, if you had students that were saying similar things, then what it would do is it would kind of add it and create it into a, like a little mini mixtape, they call it, mixtape. So it has all these responses that are clicked together. So we would love to kind of hear how you love FlipGrid. I know there's a lot of people that have caught the FlipGrid fever, which is the only appropriate fever to catch right now. And to hear how you've used it, because there's a lot of different ways that it can be used. I remember talking to a teacher of, I think it was kindergarten or first grade, that said they had a letter of the day, and they invited their students to all post a video of something from their house that started with that letter, but you didn't actually show what the item was. The student had to give 3 clues to have you guess. So it really kind of amped up that response feature within the FlipGrid to have other students try to guess what that item was the students were talking about.
So the letter of the day might be B, and I might give you the hints. This thing is really noisy when I turn it on in the morning. It's got really sharp parts, and I use it to make smoothies.
Could it be a blender?
Yes.
So you guys are actually focused on something that I think Michelle brought up again. She likes using the rubric for feedback, but also for addressing communication skills. So that's part of our literacy standards language.
Fantastic. Yes, I didn't focus on that too much. We may do another FlipGrid down the line that really can kind of tap back in more to that collaboration and feedback features. Any other good ideas, Gina gems to share out?
Gosh, I don't have any Gina gems. I just think that FlipGrid is such a flexible tool. You can use it in so many ways, and there's so many awesome accessibility features that are built right in with the Immersive Reader. You can also closed caption the videos that are made as well. So I think that's really awesome too. And also thinking about what are some of those like sentence stems that some of your students might need, whether they're ELL students or students that have different language barriers or accessing language to construct a response, what they might need and how you might incorporate those into the topic as well.
All right. I completely agree. I think we've been touting it for a while, especially if we said buy it when it used to be paid. We must feel pretty good about it. And the fact that it's free now is amazing. And they keep making it better, which is even better. And I think that within this time, really thinking about the offline time of being able to do it at your own pace when you have the time and the moment to step away and kind of focus rather than at a required time is a really important thing to consider for our learners at this point.
Yes. All right. Maggie, any additional comments or questions?
We did have one last question. Robin's wondering if the closed captions work in other languages as well.
Oh gosh. Okay, this is going to be a stump question.
I tell you what, Robin, we will get back to you and enter the answer to that in the chat. You can go back and we'll tag you on it. But I think that kind of wraps up all of our time for today. A lot of great learning. Thank you, girls, ladies, for kind of working through all of this. We've got a lot of great questions that I hope we were able to answer today. And with that, we will say see you next week.
Yeah, and we have some new great webinars coming next week. So keep in mind, join us on Monday for Wakelet at 1:30.
Yes.
See you, everybody.
See ya.